Welcome to the Cincy Postcast presented by LASIK.com, where better vision equals better calls. Visit LASIK.com/thepostcincy for $1,100 off if you take them up on that deal. Go check that out. That's a real thing, by the way. I feel like I need to keep emphasizing that. Anyway, I'm Kevin Wallace, and before we get started with today's episode, I get to tell you about our friends over at Streetside Brewery. That's right, the best brewery in Cincinnati sponsors this podcast. Located in the Columbia Tusculum neighborhood, it is an amazing spot. I love Streetside. They are so good for FC Cincinnati away games. They are so good for delicious beer. They are so good for burgers. They have everything. They also, guys, they also have liquor, all right? So they can make you a cocktail. They do different specials throughout the week as well. They've got good stuff going on, as well as they do events, and there's some really, really fun events going on at Streetside. Told you about the Bra Day on 4/20. Well, let me tell you about this. There is, on April 22nd, a cupcake and beer pairing event. That's right, from 6 to 8 p.m. with three sweet girls. They are pairing cupcakes with beer. And if you're not familiar with Streetside beer, one, shame on you. Two, they have all kinds of beers. They do a wide variety. They do lots of dark beers that I think would pair very well with a lot of these cupcakes. I do not believe you will have a bad time with a cupcake and beer pairing event. Okay, so go check them out. They have other events as well. They've got Whiskey Wednesdays. We got karaoke. There's an Earth Day cleanup that you can do. Help clean up Columbia Tusculum before the Flying Pig runs through there. Some really good stuff. Go check out Streetside Brewery. You will not be disappointed. Oh, and then on today's episode, such a good episode, a real three-parter for you. In part one, we are talking FC Cincinnati on one heck of a win streak. This team is rolling. Designated players are scoring goals. This team is near the tippy top of the table, no matter which table you're looking at, conference table, supporter shield table, it's looking good. Okay, things are looking good, right? Why does it feel weird? We get into that. We get into that. Why is Pat Noonan not happy? We'll dive into that. Also, a lot of moments to pick from for a LASIK moment of the match. All right. Part two is the part that I am very, very, very honored to bring to you. Pat Brennan, the Enquirer's longtime FC Cincinnati beat writer, joins the podcast to talk about his new adventure covering the Reds and a little bit of Bengals in there as well. We talked to Pat about the changing of his professional life there, the team. It's a good conversation. We've loved having Pat on this podcast in the past. I think you're going to enjoy the conversation that we have there. And in part three, we give you exactly what you're looking for. Put it all together. You got yourselves a lovely episode of the Postcast. Joining me to talk about all of that and more, I am joined by two gentlemen who actually can believe that FC Cincinnati is on a 4-game winning streak. Joined by the Chief, joined by Grayson. Grayson, how was your Easter?
It was good.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Had a relaxing day. Saw some family, did some household chores.
Some spring cleaning. That's good. That's good.
No complaints.
I like it. Chief, low-key Easter for you as well?
Yeah. little soccer on Saturday, and after the game, I got the bartender to turn WrestleMania on, so that's always a win.
Ooh, wow.
So I got night 2 going on the second screen right here. We'll find out whether or not John Cena breaks Ric Flair's record in the important matchup with Cody Rhodes. See what's going on right here. See if he has to cheat to win the record-breaking title for the first time in his career. My only regret for Easter is I dropped the ball this year on Easter candy. Bad. Like usually I try to at least once buy a bag of like the Cadbury mini eggs.
Yeah.
Total vice. Didn't get one this year. Sad.
Chief,
I'm slipping.
I made the same mistake. And now look, here's the thing. I've got 2 little kids at home though. So we got the Easter basket stuff, which funny story about that, which I'll tell you in just a second. But in giving them their stuff, me and the wife looked at each other, realized there was nothing for us. Like there were no leftover treats here.
You can't do that. That's no, not at all. Like usually I'm good for a big bag of the mini eggs and at least 1 or 2 of the cream eggs. And then beyond that, I'm not a Peeps enthusiast. I find Peeps enthusiasts to be weird. If you are a Peeps enthusiast, you're weird. But
Cincinnati business, though, we have to respect.
Are they really? I didn't know that.
Peeps is Cincinnati, so you have to respect.
That's
it a little
horribly
bit.
unfortunate. Like the fillet of fish is a way better fun fact than knowing that Cincinnati is like giving the people Peeps.
We also do Airheads, so give and take.
I like Airheads. I used to sell Airheads on the back of the bus when I was in school until they threatened to kick me off for
being
I don't know
capitalist.
why. To this, yeah, right. No, we'd go to Sam's Club. I'd buy a box of Airheads for the box of 80 of them were like $5, and I sold each one for $0.25. So I was making $20 a box.
Printing money.
Financed a lot of Super Nintendo games, so they shut the old business down. I'm sitting on the back of the bus from St. Andrews and Milford. But yeah, no, not enough Easter candy. I did go with a friend of the show, Mark Schweikowski from Jim Trace and the Makers. We hit up Immaculata for a fish fry on Good Friday. So I figured that, that was my contribution to Easter this year. Yeah.
So real quick, the funny story about the Easter baskets. My kids are, how old are they? They're 7 and 5. I had to think about that for a second. They, as my daughter put it, they cracked the case. They broke into a closet they were not supposed to break into 2 nights ago. If you got kids in the car, I sense that the story is about to take a turn. Yeah. You're going to want to turn the radio down. I'm doing my best to dance around it, but yeah, they the littlest one ran down. Hey mom, what's this stuffy for? Oh no, kiddo.
Got delivered early.
Yeah, so they cracked the case. Now the good news is all other mythological humanoids, they're safe. So it's only the rabbit went down.
So there's still people that are we're still alive and kicking to a certain extent.
Yes.
Right, we're still in the fight.
Also, if I may, was very proud of this. Pulled off a baked Alaska today for Easter. This was highly requested again from my daughter. She saw it somewhere and demanded it, and we pulled it off. It was pretty good. I was trying to think though, is there anywhere in Cincinnati that serves baked Alaska? That feels like such an old school steakhouse thing.
I don't think I've ever had baked Alaska.
It's cake, ice cream, meringue, and then the traditional way to do it is the waiter would bring it over on like a rolling tray. You douse it in like vodka or Everclear and light it on fire. And
it's like a Bananas Foster type thing going on there.
Yeah.
Right. Sounds delightful.
It was freaking great.
I mean, as opposed to like a baked Alaskan.
It was also $4.20.
Yeah. So, Peeps, not a Cincinnati company.
We're safe
anymore.
We're safe.
Oh, not anymore. Okay, I was like, did I just make this up?
No, I found an article from 2022.
Okay,
titled "The Marshmallow Peep and Its Sordid History in Cincinnati."
Ooh,
it does appear that Peeps are currently made by a company called Just Born in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
That's appropriate for Easter.
But apparently there was a large wholesale candy industry in Cincinnati in the late 19th century. And the inventor of the marshmallow peep, according to this article, is a guy named Roscoe Rada, who spent 30 years in Cincinnati's candy industry and was heavily involved in a progressive era religious cult. Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
In 1891, he moved to Cincinnati to expand a religious cult based in Zion City, Illinois, just north of Chicago,
Great
by the
name
name of Church of Divine Healing, or the Christian Catholic Apostolic Church of Zion.
Both are good names.
At their height, they had a 20,000 followers.
Whoa.
And a publication that was distributed in America, Europe, Australia, and South Africa. It's considered a forerunner of Pentecostalism, which I have some familiarity with. He claimed that the head of this religion healed his blind daughter and his own tuberculosis, and later that the guy cured his young son, Emmons, who had been hit and injured by a Cincinnati streetcar, which is a postcast tie-in there.
Streetcar's been taking names for generations.
And in 1907, he partnered with Robert Putnam, inventor of the Opera Cream, to make fine candies that they sold to high-end department stores like Fair. There's something else. This is a long article, but he had a mansion in Fort Thomas.
There's a Peeps Manor somewhere in Fort Thomas.
Stately Peeps Manor.
They accuse him of stealing Opera Cream for the Dove brand cream chocolate, which it says it's pretty clear that Roddy used his knowledge of Opera Creams from Cincinnati with Robert Putnam to make the Dove brand cream chocolates he made at the Zion Candy Company from 1902 to 1904. They called Dove brand cream chocolates Opera Cream knockoffs.
How dare they? I didn't know Cincinnati had this like candy outlaw culture going on here.
I love this.
The conclusion of this article, this is from Dan Weller, the food etymologist. It says, while the marshmallow peep is a symbol of American candy ingenuity and pop culture, it's also a symbol of the demise of what once was a very large and powerful Cincinnati candy industry. So, in conclusion, anti-peep.
Okay, we're anti-Peeps now.
The Peep killed Cincinnati candy.
Get him out of here. Peeps are officially canceled.
We've canceled
here
Peeps
at the Postcast.
It does feel like there's a lot of variety of Peep these days that does not seem necessary. And that does feel like bought by conglomerate and now they need to monetize.
It's the same Peep though, right? They just put different color or shape.
Yes.
Right. It's the same thing.
My kid's got a cotton candy flavored Peeps. And I was like, isn't that just Peeps? What are you doing here? Oh, I like it. Although I'm pretty sure you can't, isn't it like you can't trademark a recipe, right? Like you can use the name Opera Cream, but there's like, I thought recipes were fair game. Like the steps or the order to do something is like, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know any of this thing.
I'm not an IP lawyer. That they get paid real money.
It's something like that. Well, there you go. You go. You can safely not
Peeps
like Peeps.
Canceled. Banned.
What else?
Out of the
canceling?
18. Out of the 18 permanently.
What for our Christians out there? Out of the 18, death. There you go.
Yeah.
Get that out of here.
There we go. Get that done. Becky Lynch just won the women's tag titles. That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, there we go.
The bar having WrestleMania with it no longer being pay-per-view. Do they care that just anybody with a Netflix subscription can
Peacock.
sign in?
Yeah,
Peacock.
I don't know. Like I saw they were showing it at the first place I was at last night, and I was like, "What?" They were showing it at the other bar, and they're like, "Okay, fine, we get Peacock here. We watch soccer." So
nice.
The Premier League once again delivers for the people in unexpected ways.
Chief, any thoughts on WWE acquiring AAA in Mexico?
I mean, it's just the continuation of Vince McMahon's assault on all independent wrestling business. It's just shocking that it lasted this long without him acquiring it.
Are they going to get rid of Pro Rel? I don't know. I don't know anything about wrestling. I assume Mexican wrestling has
They actually do kind of have a pro rel system where you go down to NXT, but like you don't get like demoted down to NXT for losing. Although that would be kind of cool. Like that would be a good kind of setup.
Ooh.
I'm not going to watch wrestling till they do have an open system with Pro Rel.
Pro Rel purist with regards to wrestling only. Oh God. Let's see. We got a winning streak on our hand, boys, and
4 games. Man.
I feel like I'm of a different mind than a lot of people after this one, because I thought it wasn't that bad of a game. I thought FC Cincinnati was okay in this one. I don't think Pat Noonan agreed. I don't think a lot of people agree. But like, I don't know. This looked good. Looked fun to me. If this is bad, man, what if this team is good? What are we gonna win? 24-2? Like,
well, I mean, stay tuned to part 2 for that one. It was good in so much as Stone Cold's coming out. That's exciting. It was good in so much as that you get 3 goals from 2 from Evander, 1 from Denkey, and that's kind of the dream. Like you sign these guys, you pay $30 million for these two players, you pay them to score goals and you pay them to make differences in games. You pay them to win games. They went out and the Evander and Denkey won you games. So It's like, it's hard to be mad because we've sat here on this show and said, when is the $30 million offense going to show up? Well, it showed up last night.
Yeah.
I think that, I think that's cool. That's great. And win streaks are good. Winning is good. They're second in the table in the Eastern Conference, tied for second overall on the Shield race. But you watch every bit except for the goals, and there's just some things this team doesn't do. And there's 2 ways of looking at it. You can look at it as that indicates that it's unsustainable for them to keep winning, or that if they're doing this good now, imagine how good they'll be when they learn to string more than 5 passes together without turning the ball over, or when they learn how to actually possess their way out of a high press. So I guess it's kind of a Rorschach test for how you feel about the vibes about this team overall as to which one of those 2 realities you see. I think that both are equally valid. And I think both are equally likely to be true at some point. I just don't know what yet.
Yeah.
I think that you saw some things that you absolutely wanted to see. You saw Denkey, do in the box what you want to see him do in the box more. Like his goal, it was, I think I would say like deceptively simple. Because he got really a great strike on the ball.
Yeah.
And he took it quick. And, I think it was a little bit of a more impressive goal than it may have looked just live, right? Because it sees like, okay, well, pass him the ball in the box and he shoots it in the goal. Like I think it was quite skillfully taken and shows you, what we want to see. I mean, we've seen him get shots off quickly with good content that didn't connect to the back of the net before, but I think we'll hopefully see a lot more of this, and it's just why it's frustrating that he's not getting the ball in the box as often as we would like.
Yeah.
You saw Evander, particularly with the second goal, do something I would say spectacular. People are talking about both goals being deflected. I hear you on the first one. On the second one, I don't.
Yeah.
No.
Like it contacted players on the way to the back of the net, but he made like that was a hell of a play. And then from the angle he was in, to put that ball on frame in a position where it scored was very impressive.
And Meg the keeper?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I don't go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it's an own goal, but how they score an own goal is if it was going into the back of the net anyway, the deflection doesn't count as an own goal. So like, I'll accept you to say that it's an own goal, but it's not scored that way because he was scoring anyway.
Well, so it's not an own goal.
Yeah. The final touch into the box is off of not Evander. Yes,
right,
that's the only thing I'm saying. Yes.
And even with the first one, you know, I don't know where the ball was going to go. It was a great look. Like it was a position that we know he could score from. And, you know, one of the things that happens when you take shots from good positions is it might deflect off of somebody into the goal. Like,
yeah,
I don't feel bad about that. Even that first goal, you know, catching a defender's foot, you know, because that's one of the things that happens when you take a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's why you should shoot, is that good things happen when the ball gets directed towards the net at a high rate of speed.
Yep.
Yeah. It's the same idea of like a player, you know, crashing the net after a shot and the keeper only being able to parry it away. Like it's the result of taking a shot that allowed the opportunity for the goal to happen. Right. Right.
Yeah. And then I know he had a moment, but I thought that well, I guess I'll call out two things. One is Miazga going 45 minutes and seeming to have been good health-wise, right?
Not fast, but good.
But that gets us closer to that's a good development that he went 45 is what I'm going to say there. And then I know he had the penalty. I know he got beat by Bamba on the first goal, but Miles Robinson was immense in the game.
Yes.
And looked like, you know, a Max Tam defender. Looked like a guy who can lead your defense.
Yes.
And, you know, I think I've pointed out games that he was maybe quieter, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for the game that he had.
Yeah, I think that's true of the entire back line, is that, you know, I think that there is now a genuine question if Nick Hagglund is the starter, even when Teenage Adebayo comes back, because he had another very effective game. I thought all of the center backs, other than, you know, Miazga not being completely back when it comes to foot speed yet, I thought they all played well. They all defended well. A lot of, you know, diving stops of shots, a lot of diving or sliding stops of crosses. They were good in the air. They kept a very, very in-form Hugo Kuipers in check for the majority of the game, absent his one run where he just got behind the entire defense.
Yeah.
So I think that those are all good things. Evander's a game changer, and Evander he has these moments where he scores, And you can watch the rest of his game and think, man, just Evander's not doing a whole lot. But he provides these two incredible moments during the match that win the match for FC Cincinnati. So it's hard in the abstract to like come away from this thinking anything other than, you know what? Awesome. This team, 3 points on the road. They're getting results when they're not playing their best soccer. I just want someone to explain to me how the offense starts to look functional, because it's hard. It's hard not to bleed this over into the conversations that are for our other podcast, where, you know, we're doing the MLS show. So I find myself watching a lot more MLS now than I ever have in my life. And you look at the teams that we want FC Cincinnati to be competing with at the end of the year. You know, you watch Columbus play, you watch Miami play, you watch, you know, Vancouver play, or even Charlotte, you know, as hot of a start as they've been off to. These teams all have no problem stringing together passes that unlock defenses, that break down defenses.
Yes.
I rewatched this FC Cincinnati game today. I don't think there was a single possession FC Cincinnati had the entire match where they strung more than 10 passes together without a turnover or being dispossessed. It's awful. It's not just bad, it's awful. And I don't know the path forward on that. And that's stopping me from being super excited about this, because you watch Kevin Denkey. I get it, he's a striker. He scored a goal. Awesome. He outright botched 4 opportunities because he couldn't connect a pass to someone else that was making a run while he had the ball at his feet. And I get it. He's not paid to do that. He's paid to score goals. But it wasn't just him. It was Anunga. It was Buka. It was Yedlin. It was Engel on the outside. There is just something that I don't see with this team and their ability to move the ball. And it shows up in all sorts of weird other ways too. Like Hugo Kuipers scores this goal for Chicago, and he gets behind the defense. When was the last time an FC Cincinnati player got behind the defense or got behind the last defender? Whenever they're charging, and they're the best you're ever going to see is a 2-on-2 or a 3-on-2 rush where there's already people in front of goal. And I refuse to believe that we're being defended so much different than the rest of the league. I don't know what this offense is or isn't doing, but it's just not creating sustained possession. And so, you need your defense to be Superman all the time, because you can't put the other side under pressure. And if I knew how that changes, or I knew what was needed to make that a different story, to make this team look a little more like the top teams that I think this team is, I might be more excited. I just don't see it right now. And that's hard for me.
Yeah. I mean, I think we had like an expected goal in this game, according to FOTMob.
1.05 on that.
Yeah. And I know, we scored 3. I would put that is in, a combination of a little bit of luck and a little bit of, having these very expensive, extremely talented players who are going to score worse chances more often than your average player.
Yeah.
But if you look at like the other game I watched this weekend was that Miami Crew game.
Yeah.
And Crew didn't score, but they had almost 3 expected goals against Miami. 16 shots.
Yeah.
8 big chances missed. And what I would love to see is like a team that is passing like Columbus, that is generating chances like Columbus, with our 30 million attackers being the guys getting these big chances. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
why don't we have that? What is wrong? Why does this team not do that? Like, why can't they pass? Why can't they string passes together?
Because we don't have great players like Sean Zawadski.
In fairness, our Sean Swatsky is Yuya Kubo, and he's hurt. Okay.
And Dylan Chambost and Max Arfson and Jason Russell Rowe, guys who were on
Huge dollar deals.
MLS 2 contracts last year.
Yeah. Is part of it just in like taking us back to our D&D roots here? Did we just put way too many points into defense? And there's just not enough points for ball handling and passing. And like, sure, Columbus, I saw a highlight posted of a 34 pass sequence that led to a fantastic shot on goal. But at the end of the day, FC Cincinnati won their game and Columbus lost their game.
Yeah. And Columbus was also playing a way better team than we were.
Fair.
And they were also on the road.
They were also on the road.
Yep. No, I don't want to feel down. I don't want to be down. It was an exciting result. The goals were incredible. This is what we wanted. We wanted to see this offense do spectacular things. I'm just wondering what this looks like when the competition ratchets up, like when you start to see better teams that we're facing. And I don't understand why we can't, because like, I think everyone acknowledges that these are all really talented players. I think that there's no doubt Pavel Buka is a really, really talented player. Why can't he complete a pass? Like DeAndre Yedlin, his speed may be declining a little bit. He's still a very good player that was a national team, stalwart for years. Why can't he complete a pass on this team? Why is it that this team moves backwards so often? Like there was a turnover in the opposing third last night, and sure enough, the ball got cycled all the way back to Roman without a shot being created.
Yeah.
Like, I wish that I wish I understood the game better, or I understood the tactical plan that Noonan is trying to put out there, because these seem like they're really good players. And I don't understand why in this system and in this setup, we have to deal with, even though it's a road game and, it's Chicago at the end of the day, outpassed 519 to 397. Passing accuracy 79% to 86% losing. They almost double us up in passes in the final third. Or no, sorry, but 98 to 74. They still way outdo us, and like 75% accuracy to 65% accuracy final third passes. This stuff all matters, and I don't know why we're so allergic to possessing the ball.
Yeah. It's a mystery, man. Like I'm there with you. Someone smarter at soccer could maybe, I don't know, maybe explain it. I'm shooting from the hip here, so I don't know if this is correct, right? But I'm gonna hypothesize a potential answer here. Are we attempting more like high risk, high reward passes? And so, sure, they don't come off nearly as much, and sure, we're giving away possession more often, but on the handful of times that they pull off, we feel like we got a 50-50 shot of turning it into a goal.
I don't know. I felt like that was the case with Lucho.
Yeah.
It felt like the team it felt like a lot of the players on the team were constantly trying to like squeeze the ball into like a really tight space and like hit a guy perfectly, where if it comes off, it's like an incredible chance and it looks great. And they weren't, cycling the ball around or trying to use the passing to create spaces in a systematic way.
Yeah.
But
you're right. This doesn't feel like that.
And with this team, like it would be something like, Orishano is making a run toward the box and he has space, but the pass just comes behind him.
Denkey did that at least twice in some pretty high leverage moments that were really sad to see.
And so I don't really know. It's not just Denkey either. It's
right.
with everybody. And I don't really know what to say about that.
And also, like, I would agree with you, Kevin, as well. If like you couldn't pull the passing charts up on MLS Analytics, and it just shows us that our number one passing trade is we pass around the back, that we cycle among behind the center backs and just go back and forth with stuff. But yeah, it's everything feels off. Like the passes are behind. You know, was multiple times passes to no one, where they maybe expected someone to make a run and the run didn't happen. You know, there'll be stretches of the game where we don't play it out the back and Roman just basically concedes possession, just whomping the ball up the field to no one. And there's no running for the second ball. The press is kind of half there, half not sometimes, where you're not really seeing swarming to the ball. But then like every so often you'll see a great individual effort like Sergio Santos winning the ball and taking it right off somebody's feet, and then feeds a brilliant pass right over to Denkey, and bam, you got your second goal of the night. So they're a tough team to figure out right now. And I guess the positive for me is that I think that they've answered the question that these players that they made in the offseason, were they worth it? Hell yeah. Like, yeah. If there was a concern about Evander, erased. Like,
yeah,
sign me up for that every day and Sunday. Same thing with Denkey. The man was a pest. He was all over the field. Like, the effort was there. The final touch was there.
God,
he's still concerned. He's converting an absurdly high rate of very few chances and touches in the final third. Like, he doesn't get a lot of opportunities in this game as well. I think he only ends up with 4 touches in the opponent's penalty area, converts one of those 4 into a great goal. So his efficiency is off the charts good. So, like, that's awesome. That's cool. And that's enough to drag you to a result against a team like Chicago. I just want to see the next year. I want to, and we talked about this last year. It felt like all year we were waiting for this team to, when it hits its next gear, this is going to be something. And they just never did.
Yeah. Kevin Denkey on the season has 35 touches inside the opponent's box. Jonathan Bamba had 13 in this game alone.
Yeah.
Just something to think about. Now, Bamba also has like 45 assists already this season, so he's doing well with what he's been given. But yeah, you'd like to think that if Denkey could get a little more opportunities, this guy would be bagging goals. But you know, Chief, going back to like the vibes of this, it is so funny that this team, and I completely agree with you, and I feel this way, to be clear, not a criticism of anybody, but like it feels like the team is underachieving. It's felt like that this offense just hasn't gotten into sync, and it's been a bit of a struggle to get everything going. And yet, we're tied second on the supporter shield table, and Denkey and Evander have combined for 10 goals already this season, and Evander is 1 goal off of the Golden Boot title right now. He is tied for second in that one. So he's like good. Yeah, there's a lot of like top line stats, so you might be able to read out if you like Cincinnati fans, if you're feeling even a percentage point of disappointment in this team, you are beyond spoiled. You have become Real Madrid fans. You have become PSG fans. And yet, I don't think it's unfair to be a little about what's going on so far.
Well, you just wonder, what, you looked at the team last year. They started really strong. Their story's a little different because I would say like injuries really derailed.
Yeah.
But they're still dealing with some of the injuries that derailed last season. And so I don't think the team is as defensively stout as they were in 2023. I don't think that that's a controversial thing to say. They could be better. If Matt's recovery continues and, players like Nick and Miles continue to play like they've been playing, if Flores keeps improving, who I think he had a little bit of a rough game, but it's great that they are grinding out results. It's great that they are finding the moments of magic when they need them. It's not an offense to hope that, Sergio Santos chases the defender down to the end line, wins the ball, and then quickly finds Kevin Denkey in the box. Those are great when they happen, but that's not like how you build out your game plan. And they are going to have a way to consistently generate opportunities, consistently find their striker in the box through like intentional play with the ball, if they want to have the best chance of sustained success and being able to win games against top teams, win elimination games.
Yeah.
And it's okay that they don't, like, it could very well be okay that they're not there yet, right? It is April.
It could very well be the case that they could keep winning games like this all the way to an MLS Cup. Right. I think that's
it feels unlikely.
It's less likely than having a plan for sure.
But
I watched the Baltimore Ravens win a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer at quarterback. Like, there's multiple different ways to win. You're just playing the game on hard mode if you try to win it in certain ways. But there is nothing that would preclude Evander and Denkey just being better than everybody else for the remainder of the MLS season. Like, that's possible.
Yeah, I mean, so like, there's multiple ways you could see this going, right? You could see it going, one, they out-talented teams early when they weren't clicking, and when they started clicking, they were flying. You could see like they out-talented teams all the way to an MLS Cup, right? That feels like a less likely scenario. But you can also see, they out-talented teams when they could all season, had a nice year. And then when they came across a team in the playoffs that was on their level talent-wise, they just didn't have the fluidity in their game to really play with somebody, and they got drummed down in the Eastern Conference semifinals or whatever.
Yeah. We saw both of those examples last year. New York Red Bulls make the final having the 8th, 10th most talented roster in the league, but they got a system. They got a hell of a system. They have a worldwide global system. Miami, Columbus, us all dumped out despite having both talent and, in the case of Columbus, a hell of a system. The best coach in the league, right? And it comes and goes, so it's hard to say in an elimination game, especially when you get to the one-offs. Yeah, it's hard to say what will win out, but I think I would prefer having both the most talented team and like a really cohesive, well executable and repeatable plan. That would be good.
No team that we're facing off this year is perfect. No. Miami is extremely, extremely vulnerable defensively. And if they're a couple of top guys, like I was watching that Miami Crew game, there were long stretches where like just guys are touching the ball for Miami.
Yeah.
And like their top tier guys are special, and they got a lot of talent, and they have competent players, pretty deep in a lot of places. But, that's the team that's got flaws. Columbus, for all of their system, it's very different when you have Cucho finishing the ball and when you don't.
Yeah.
And to be fair to them, they did just sign Gazdag, and I think they still have room to make additions. So that's a team that's probably going to improve. But again, like they don't have that killer in the team like they did the last 2 years right now.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that it's fair to expect FC Cincinnati to be perfect, but I do think that of all the teams that I've looked at in the Eastern Conference, FC Cincinnati is a team that feels like it could get the closest to perfect, given what that 11 looks like, if it's all healthy and if you imagine them all at the top of their game, and given the amount of depth they have in a lot of positions that they've never had before in MLS. And so there probably is a bit of our expectations being really high and maybe a little unfair at this stage. Maybe a little unfair at any stage, but
I don't think they're unfair because it's Pat Noonan is saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think the expectations are warranted. And I don't think that, which is why I don't feel bad having this conversation, because the person who I would believe to be with his finger on the pulse most of this team kind of agrees with this take, and that's the manager. I think Noonan is not pleased with what he's seeing. And now the question is like, if only the guy who was responsible for this would agree with him and do something about it, maybe we'd be a little better off. But yeah, like that's Grayson. I think that's the perfect way of saying it, is that you look at this team and you imagine who are the good players on this team. And the answer is it's just about everybody.
Yeah.
But like, you're not seeing the best of Luca Orishano right now. Like he still looks bad. Like I said it online. I'm standing by this. I have half a mind that, like, they say he picked up a knock. It would not surprise me if Luca Orishano was held out of this game in small part because he's just been ineffective. And we're not going to put a player out there who has been ineffective and also has a knock. And maybe that sends a message to Luca that, you know what, your form so far is not so good that we're going to throw you out there regardless of circumstance. And
oh my God, Chief. I mean, he is benched. Okay, let's take him at their word, a knock. But I agree with you. I think he's benched here. He's benched for Sergio Santos, who gets 2 assists. Santos, I think, has had 2 assists his entire FC Cincinnati career going into this night. Yeah. Like, not only was it a bold decision, I mean, I know I'm like the Dotto guy, but I think rightfully, I thought Dotto could have taken that spot there as well. Got the game winner last week. No. Got it right with Santos. Like that was wild that he's an upgrade on Orishano right now. Just in form. Because like you look and you think about it, if Orishano gets it figured out, like there is a huge untapped potential so far for this year for the FC with Luca Orishano if he gets back to form. Miazga
he was dangerous. He was dangerous yesterday.
He did look good.
It felt like whatever message was. Yeah, it felt like the message got sent a little bit because he was immediately goal dangerous as soon as he got on the field. But we haven't seen the best of him. We haven't seen the best of Matt Miazga by far. We haven't seen the best of DeAndre Edlin, what you would imagine, even at this age, what his peak could be. You know, we haven't seen, I don't think, what the peak could be for Lucas Engel yet. Obina wasn't even out on the field. Mm-hmm. So that's an ability to like push forward and do more there. I don't think we're seeing peak Evander still, because what we're seeing from Evander are little like incredible flashes of brilliance, but not like the banality of talent where he's pinging the ball all over the field and finding passing. That's still missing from his game right now. So I think that with all these players, you know, even Denkey, I think that if he gets twice as many touches, he's going to score twice as many goals. Like that's the level of efficiency he's been operating at. So you see the tremendous upside potential for this team, and maybe it's great they're grinding results out when they don't have that. I'll say it outright. It is great they're grinding results when they don't have that right now. So I think that the optimism is still off the charts high for this team. It's just I want to start seeing a little more of the connective tissue start to form around this incredibly high priced and talented, you know, specimen.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. Now, if I may change the subject here for just a moment, because there was another team on the field last night. And that
The
is, of
third
course, your favorite team, my favorite team, the third team. Absolutely. Some moments where the third team showed up, good and bad. Let me start off with one that I think we can all agree on, and that is Kevin Denkey scores a goal through traffic after a well-won ball back from Sergio Santos, scores the goal, and immediately lifts up his shirt to reveal a printed, not handwritten, a printed shirt, R.I.P. Boupendza #9, on his training top there underneath on the tank top. So good.
And I want to point out too,
Please.
this was 100% planned because
it was printed.
Well, it was printed. No, but not just planned. I mean, people were made aware of this because before he even raises the shirt to show what's underneath there, the Apple TV commentary team is already talking about, oh, he's going to display his shirt to commemorate. They're already into the explanation before they see what's on the shirt. So people were tipped off in this match about what Kevin was going to do to honor Aaron. This should have surprised no one in the building. And they were telling people about it, obviously.
Yes. Now, however, he gets a yellow card here because he lifts his shirt in some way. Now, I'm going to read what I believe to be an excerpt from the IFAB rules. This is the organization that governs.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin. You've got to sound like a hardo on this. They're never the rules. This is like one of those masters.
The laws of the game.
The laws of the game. It sounds so
game.
Pretentious. Please use the correct terminology.
Which you will end up in the jail of the game should you violate the laws of the game.
The laws of the game.
A player must be cautioned. So the referee does not get discretion. Even if the goal is disallowed for 3 of the following: climbing onto the perimeter fence and or approaching the spectators in a manner which causes safety and or security issues. Don't like the subjectivity there, but sure, fair enough.
It's funny to say there's no discretion.
Yes.
And then immediately give a scenario
point
that requires the exercise of your discretion to make a judgment of whether it's in this manner.
Like thinking back of like the iconic Rooney to Lucho goal and Lucho jumps into the crowd. I don't think that causes a safety or security issue, but maybe the ref does. Like,
I mean, Lucho didn't buy a ticket. He wasn't in his ticketed seat right there.
They're not allowed to rush the field. He's not allowed to rush the stands. Okay. Acting, and this is another bullet point here. Acting in a provocative, derisory. Sorry.
Derisive?
Derisory. Not a word I would have used here, but sure. Or inflammatory way. So again, pretty subjective. Covering the head or face with a mask or similar item. Not relevant here. And then the one that a lot of people have been pointing to, removing the shirt, which to be clear, he did not remove it, or covering the head with the shirt. His head is briefly, but for a solitary second, covered as he lifts the shirt. But he makes a point to make sure his head is not covered to reveal the message for a former player, a teammate of a lot of the players on the field, a designated player in this league, to show their solidarity with a player that has tragically lost his life. And he is cautioned for this. And this is still fairly early in the game. We've seen yellow card accumulation bite this team plenty of times. Again, cautioning a designated player in this league. I'm giving this my LASIK moment of the match. I would like the referee to reread the rules and maybe even read the moment with 20/20 vision from LASIK, which, by the way, you yourself can get get on the action. LASIK.com/thepostsensi, $1,100 off your procedure. That's a real thing. Please check it out. Cincinnati's like a LASIK hotbed, okay? You'll be in trusted hands doing that. But man, this moment made me think somebody messed up here. This is not a good look.
Yeah. If you're an official and you see this, you are the worst person ever to give this a yellow card. I'm sorry. You are the worst person. You deserve shame. You deserve review by the league, by the organization. They were paying tribute to a teammate that died suddenly at the age of 28. If you think this is appropriate to pull a yellow card out, I don't want you officiating games at any level.
Yeah, this is like
it's a humanity test. This is a human being test, and you failed.
There's a certain kind of person, I think, who takes gets some personal, I don't want to say like pleasure, but gets some like purpose out of being the one who's like, I know that there's circumstances here, but the law is the law.
Yeah, rules are rules.
Rules are rules, and it's my solemn duty to enforce the rule in every circumstance, no matter the context, because there's a thin yellow line that separates
rugby from soccer.
Every game from chaos, and you need me on that wall and whatever. But nobody would have complained.
Yeah,
if you didn't give him a yellow card here, nobody would have said anything about it. It would not be a story. Like, the ref would not be part of this. It would be Kevin Denkey did this thing.
Yeah.
And it was a nice gesture, but the ref, had to make it. He had to be part of this moment.
Yeah.
Denkey
didn't play with Boupendza. Like, this is mattering so much more, I think, in that, like, I don't know. It's just such a sweet moment. It's such a nice moment. It's like the solidarity of not just like a former teammate, but like of the sport of soccer, that a man tragically dies in China and a Togolese international in Cincinnati is paying homage to him. Like that is the beautiful game to me. And yeah, it's ruined. And there will come a point in this season, I am sure, where Denkey will have to serve a yellow card suspension. He will miss a game, and we will have to remember that as a part of that suspension, it was this moment. And another beautiful moment later in the night is Denny Bouanga for LAFC, who was an international teammate with Boupendza, also had an RAP Aaron Boupendza shirt that I'm going to assume was Bouanga wrote it out in Sharpie on his undershirt there. Now, he doesn't lift it clean over his head, but is lifting up the shirt. Not cautioned, of course, because that would be absurd to do that. And if people remember the Christian Pulisic man in the mirror moment at TQL, wasn't cautioned. So I don't want people to say that it's displaying a message under a shirt. That's not what was being cautioned here. I think if you really got into it, it's the half a second where the shirt sort of touches the top of Denkey's head is what's being penalized here in this moment.
But players aren't penalized for lifting up their shirt and wiping sweat off their face.
Which should be, by what I'm reading, if it happens after a goal, an immediate yellow card.
Yeah.
There's
use
no
a towel
wiggle room.
or get out of here.
But there is an understanding that if a player lifts up his shirt, even if it's after a goal, and wipes sweat off of his face, or and doesn't leave the shirt covering his face while he celebrates, that's not cautioned.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, there may have been a moment. I did not watch Denkey lift the shirt over his head.
Yeah.
Presumably there was some moment in time where the shirt crested over his shimmering bald skull. And maybe it touched, and could be read to have covered momentarily.
Right.
But man, I'm not going to be the person making the argument that what Denkey did fell within that rule where there so clearly that there was obviously no discretion for the referee to give the yellow card here.
And it is so funny that the 3 other bullet points on that list all required discretion, acting in a provocative or inflammatory way, causing a safety and or security issue, mask or other similar item. Who determines what's a similar item to a mask? Like,
what's your hands? Put your hands over your face.
If you grab a supporter scarf and wrap it around your neck, is that mask esque? Like, what are we talking about here?
You got to love the third team just writing themselves all sorts of ways to be the star of the show.
Well, yeah. I think I want to read a quote from Phil Neville that I do think says I just think that they just want to be the kings of the castle. It's all about them. They just want to show that they are the main people in this league, and unfortunately it's not good. And we've made this point over and over and over again. That is like the crux of how they message themselves, the whole third team thing. And I know people probably think that we're just complaining about referees, and we are.
Yes.
But
that is a part of it.
I genuinely think that the way they messaged during the labor issue, the whole third team thing, shows that they just do not understand what is the appropriate place of a referee in a soccer league.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your furniture.
Yeah.
And in much the same way, don't run into furniture.
So
know where the furniture is before you.
This is where we walk back everything we just said and thank the third team for all of their hard work.
No.
We don't thank them for anything. Because
I'll thank them for not screwing up this one too.
Right. I will thank them for at least rightly understanding the rules in this instance, and chide them for not being more accurate more frequently, where you can spot a ball knower from a mile away because a ball knower knows that there is a difference between hitting the ref with your person and the ball making contact with the ref. The ball making contact with the ref, under the laws of the game, has the discretion to restart play with a drop ball if the ref makes the determination that his interference with the ball conferred some advantage in some way or change the course of play. When it comes to actually making contact with the official, there is no ability to stop the play. There is no drop ball situation. You're supposed to get out of the ref's way. And not for nothing, if we're going to talk about this goal that got scored as a result,
and we are. I
think that the Chicago player thought that he was making contact with an FC Cincinnati player because he took a dive as soon as he felt contact. He just felt contact with the wrong person.
It is pretty damning that the Chicago player, who I forget who it was that did this, is running at the referee the whole time. The referee has his back to the Chicago player who is
watching the play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As they should, hey, props to the ref for keeping an eye on what's going on. And sure, the referee backs up. He begins to backpedal. But again, the Chicago player is there the whole time. If it's an FC Cincinnati player, he would be mocked by his teammates and everybody else for having tripped over an opponent trying to make a play on the ball, because he should have been aware of where that person is on the field. It doesn't matter that that person is wearing blue in this case. However, cleans him out pretty nicely, allowed Santos to win the ball with nobody around him in midfield, passes it to Evander, and Evander charges at goal, makes a quick little move, hits his shot, hits a nice little luxury deflection, and loops in over Chris Brady's head, which felt extremely savable, but he had fallen down. It's a lovely comedy of errors from the Chicago Fire team. And I will say, if I was a Fire fan, I would be furious. I'd be fuming. But as we discussed,
I'm not. So
yeah, nice to get one back, right?
I do want to point out that there's a law of the game that talks about the ball touching the ref. And Chief, not to contradict you, but there are moments where the laws say the ref must stop play when he or she contacts the ball. And it's if the referee touches the ball and a team starts a promising attack, or the ball goes directly into the goal, or the team in possession of the ball changes.
Okay.
At other times, if it touches a match official, the ball is considered in play. That's what's set forth in the laws of the game. There is no rule that says if you run into the ref has to stop play.
What a cheat that would be.
in 2021, a ref cleaned out Joe Jow when FC Cincinnati played against Montreal, and it led to a change of possession, and Montreal scored.
Yep.
And I think that, we didn't get any apologies or anything then. And I do think that if the laws make a distinction between the ref touching the ball and the player touching the ref, there's not much argument there. Sorry that happened to you. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
And to their credit, if you look, I actually went on Reddit because I was curious about the conversation on this goal.
Yeah.
And Chicago fans were complaining. FC Cincinnati fans were kind of embarrassing themselves and almost apologizing for the goal. Fans of other teams were saying it was the correct result.
Guys, you cannot be a worse fan of your own team than other fans of other teams being supporting your team. That's such a bad look. Please, for the love of God, can FC Cincinnati fans stop doing that online?
No, they can't. It's Cincinnati. We're too polite. We're too. It's a Midwestern Cincinnati thing that we have to be a little ashamed of our own success sometimes. And it's the Catholic thing, too, where it's, we don't deserve good things. We deserve suffering and we deserve bad. We're sinners at heart and we don't deserve this nice thing. We have to apologize when good things happen to us. We need to have a more evangelical spirit that good things are owed to us and that we are evidence of our chosen status among the people.
Right? Yeah.
The kind of mindset that says God told me to start this multi-level marketing scheme.
Yeah. Prosperity gospel. We need to be more prosperity gospel.
This is yes, right. And so I do want to, I guess, definitively state nothing to apologize for the first goal, whether it's the Chicago Fire player carelessly running into the referee, or it's the deflection off of the Chicago defender.
Yeah.
Both perfectly fair results.
Yeah. Think about how many times that nonsense has happened to us. Grayson brought up a great one from the Montreal match. Like, you like to think it all averages out. So, like, okay, let's say even if you think this was something that we absolutely should not have gotten, should not have been taken, should not have gotten the advantage of. Well, guess what? In like 2 months, we're going to be on the receiving end of some nonsense as well. Okay. So just take the wins when you can get them, because the losses are coming.
Or it's washed out by the penalty call later in the game.
I was going to say they get a penalty in this one. It's not like there wasn't some referee help and assistance along the way.
But you knew the penalty was coming as soon as that goal got scored. You knew they were going to get a makeup call at some point.
It was just a matter of how many makeup calls, because I don't know like how guilty the referee felt. Like, if they felt like they didn't do anything wrong, it was just going to be one makeup call. If they truly felt like they really messed up, we might have been on the receiving end of a couple penalty calls.
I didn't like the penalty call for this reason.
Please.
Miles is playing pretty good defense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Gutman comes crashing in fairly recklessly.
Yeah.
And he comes crashing into a group of people, not going to do anything. Ball is going away. Ball is gone.
Right. It's going well out of bounds.
And so, like, if he accidentally trips over Miles's leg, like, that's a very hard, like, he's not really, like, Gutman's not really making a soccer play. He's kind of doing a little bit of a desperation move there.
Yeah.
And like, everybody in the box is just where they're supposed to be. I don't really know what Miles could do differently in this play to make it not a penalty. And I don't think Gutman did anything particularly good, except for, come into the box real quick and trip.
Yeah. If anything, he identified Robinson's leg and was like, I'm running into that. Like, that's...
I had a problem with it because I thought there was no chance Kevin Denkey would get the same call in the same circumstance.
Of course not.
Of course, there's no chance. There's a play early in the game where Denkey legitimately trips. I don't think it's a foul. I don't think it's a penalty, but legitimately trips over Chris Brady because, he's going for the ball and Brady is there. His hand is outstretched. He hits the ball, also gets a piece of Denkey, and Denkey legitimately trips, and the ref comes up and talks to him. Kevin didn't call for a penalty. He didn't put his hands up. He gets up right away. It's very similar to the, so-called simulation that he was cautioned for in the other game.
Yep.
And, they are not giving him any benefit of any doubt.
No,
none.
He's too strong. He's too.
Yeah, I mean, the man looks like an action figure,
right.
But that doesn't matter. Like,
right,
fouls are fouls.
Right. I
just because Andrew Gutman looks like he polishes his head at night doesn't mean that he should be entitled to better officiating.
I also do have to correct myself. Apparently, the ball is dribbling very slowly directly to Roman Celentano. It's not terribly slow. I don't think Gutman, if untripped, makes it to the ball before it gets to Roman. So
there's no chance.
It's a dead play either way. And if you really want to like play out the scenario, 2 FCC players let the ball go to Roman. I think if Gutman is charging in, you've got I think it's Hagelin there, or Flores is ready to boot that ball away. So very silly. But they get the penalty. It keeps it interesting. I'll say selfishly, I predicted a 4-3 game. And I was looking at it like, maybe these last 20 minutes could get really fun. But yeah, they get the win. It was a big win. 3 goals in one game is good to see. As we talked about, the $30 million attack, especially with Santos out there, the $31 million attack is looking pretty good. And the team is second in the table and flying. Like, this is nice. This is a good spot to be, even as we discussed, even if this isn't their final form. This is great. This is a pretty good team. So
yeah, I'm happy with the result. And 2 games on the road, six points made for the last 2 weeks, finally back home after it seems like an eternity. They're racking points up against the teams they're supposed to beat. So you can't argue with that.
Yep. Just trying to pull this up here real quick. Boop, 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 boop. What have we played 9 games. If we go through, we predicted a win next week. So, damn, we're keeping track though.
This is an FC thing, though. This is a tradition unlike any other, where they rattle off like 8 or 9 wins in the springtime, and that's usually, precedes a late season swoon for some reason or another.
We did predict a stretch of 7 games with only 1 win later in the season. So we knew it was coming.
We know what we're doing here. I also want to shout out my man Alvis Powell, because we didn't talk about him. He had another Alvis Powell moment later in the game where he just decided, you know what? I'm going solo. Pick it up. And so it's become my favorite recurring bit in an FC Cincinnati game.
Yeah. I thought Roman did about as well as he could, given the circumstances he was played in this one.
I think he probably could have done a little better on that Hugo Kuipers goal. I'm not going to put the penalty on him because, it's a penalty, but like, he had the angle on Kuipers. Like, you're going to want to do a little better than what you did there, I think.
I think that's fair.
But then, Evander scores basically from the same position on the field, so it's kind of a wash, I guess.
I'd even say a tighter one, yeah. Is there anything else we need to touch on this one? Midfield pretty anonymous in this, in a bad way.
So somebody brought this up in the Discord, and I want to bring this to the greater audience right here.
Please.
Question 1 for the two of you, Grayson, Kevin. Have you missed Obi since he's been hurt?
I missed 2023 Obi.
Have you missed 2025 Obi over the last 2 batches he's been out, I think?
No, we've won, right? Like, I'm not going to say the midfield looks great, but we got wins. So I would say no, not feeling like I miss him, but also like, that's kind of what Anunga was brought in to do. But I also think Anunga and Obi are very upgradable at this point.
And if you don't miss them, what does that say about what we're paying Obi versus what we're paying Anunga?
It's a great deal on an Anunga.
I don't know. I hope Obi recaptures a little bit of his form, and maybe when he gets back and he's fully healthy, then maybe we start to see the passing get a little better. But I don't know that that's going to be the case, because he hasn't been a tremendous passer these last 2 years.
Yeah. When does the transfer window close? Isn't it in like 4 days?
This week.
Maybe we start hearing some rumblings on some U22s or something. Noel Buck went to
San
Jose. So if anybody was holding out hope there, that is not happening.
I'd say watch the space for a striker and watch the space for a wing back.
Oh, I was just thinking this team needs one more striker.
Yeah.
We've only got like 8 on this roster. We probably need a 9th one.
You never know.
Maybe a midfielder. Just throw it out there. Okay, let's leave the game there. Let's head on over to part 2. I'm very excited about part 2 because part 2 is Pat Brennan, your friend, my friend. Sometimes feels like a fourth or fifth co-host of the podcast. We got to talk to him. We got to talk about his time at the Inquirer and how he is spending his time with the Inquirer changing, as we've known him as the dedicated FC Cincinnati beat writer. That is not going to be the case for the foreseeable future. So we had to talk to Pat, get his thoughts, get his feelings, and we'll catch you on the other side. Joining us here in part 2 of the Cincy Foul Post, we are joined by Pat Brennan, beat writer for the Inquirer, covering all things Cincinnati Reds. Pat, 24 runs in one game. They went 35 innings without a run. So Pat, listen, I don't know. I know you're covering baseball.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know of this guy. There was a guy who used to play for FC Cincinnati, went by the name Brenner. And Brenner scored a lot of goals, but he would only score a lot of goals in like one game. He'd score 3 goals here, 4 goals there. Are the Cincinnati Reds the Brenner of baseball?
Oh my God, what a great analogy. Yes. Yes. They are. They're mercurial. They're up and down. It's a wild ride. Some days you are going to get 24 runs. Noel V. Marte is going to drive in 7 off of position players throwing him ephus pitches at 40 miles per hour.
Wait, you're saying it's not normal for the bottom 2 hitters in your lineup to combine for 13 hits and go 13 for 14?
Well, yeah, maybe not on this team. And I do think the Reds are they'll be an entertaining product all summer. But no, I would say that's not. No, the Brenner's actually a great analogy. It really is. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah, hey. I decided to change our name to account for the Reds beat writer.
I was wondering what the hell. Now I get it.
Yeah, we're pivoting to baseball coverage.
Yeah, we actually, Pat, you thought you were leaving us. We're actually just following you.
Yeah, we're abandoning all pretense of being a soccer podcast because it turns out none of us really know anything about soccer anyway, and so we're pivoting back to Cincinnati's original love. That is the national pastime.
I don't know. I'd be careful about that. Making that switch.
We thought we were an FC Cincinnati podcast. Turns out we were a Pat Brennan podcast.
Oh wow! Well,
Pat,
there's still time to not post this.
But Pat, we got to talk about it. The people have noticed, and I think they are sad. I think that is generally the vibe I'm picking up from the fan base. They are sad that you are no longer on the FC Cincinnati beat. You have now been, as far as I can tell, as much as it pains me, been promoted to the Reds beat. How's that going for you?
Those are nice things to say. Thank you. I have also sensed what you just described, and this is. I do thank you guys sincerely for having me on, giving me the platform. And I know you've got questions. I'll try to provide answers. Part of the reason that I delayed speaking about this publicly was, one, I wanted to be in lockstep with my employer and my superiors. It's obviously
smart
of paramount. Yeah. Paramount.
Well done.
Yeah.
Stay employed. That's rule number 1 in life.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how this goes, but yeah. And, I was clearly hemming and hawing about it. I was about to say some things one night, and then I never got around to it.
That was so funny, by the way.
I'll grab a cup of coffee and I'll be right back. And
you couldn't have played that better. It was perfect.
It's like, I got to run out to the store for some cigarettes and some milk. I'll be right back to address this. Don't worry about it. We'll have a talk when I'm back, son.
There was also, which I thought of when I woke up the next morning, and I was like, ooh, that really wasn't helpful to the dialogue. It was the Kung Fu Panda meme that, or the Kung Fu Panda gif of Oogway ascending. I don't know if some people, some of the dorks in the fan base get that reference. It's basically the passing on of the character who's passing on says to another person, "You must continue your journey without me." I've never actually seen Kung Fu Panda, but
it lines up. Yeah,
it did. I think I thought it worked thematically. Tone wise, probably tone deaf from me. So, and then I made an Instagram post that was just 400 words of saying nothing. So I think all of that can just lead one to the point of confidence that I didn't know what to say and I didn't know how to say it. It's been challenging, certainly. Long before I knew what the ultimate kind of terminus of this whole journey would be, I was filling in, we have a primary Bengals writer and a primary Reds writer, and then one person who swings in between those two beats. That's what the sports org chart looks like. And the person who swung in between left. So, and that was right after the end of that was at the end of November-ish.
Yeah.
And FC Cincinnati season had just finished. And when that happened, I just thought I was looking ahead. I was content. I was happy covering FC Cincinnati. And I was looking ahead to 2025. Clearly, it was going to be an interesting offseason with what Lucho had to say after they were eliminated from the playoffs. And then literally the same night, Kevin Denkey was signed and received his final physical literally across the hallway from where Acosta was saying, "This might be my final game." So I was like, this is going to, roll on.
A little juicy.
There is no off season. It just goes on.
Yeah. But then I had to help out, close out the Bengals season, which ended up being pretty interesting. If you guys recall, they were pretty somewhat relevant to the postseason into the last week of the season. And that vacancy on the sports side remained. And before you know it, I was in Goodyear, Arizona, doing Reds spring training. And not long after that, I was mapping out what covering the Reds would look like during the regular season, which has obviously already started. And all that happened so fast, I didn't really get a chance to say anything of real value or meaning to a lot of people that mean a lot to me. And that was sad. That I was sad. It was really, that was upsetting, and I struggled with that, and I still am, because I still haven't said a lot of things that I want to say to important people. In all of this, as we kind of set out on our conversation here or continue on with it, I just want to say, I'm not part of the show. It's about the club. Right. And it's about the players and the action on the field. And we should never lose that. And like I said, Kevin, I sensed what you were describing. People reached out to me. They wanted to know. Some were more aggressive than others, and that's fine.
Yeah, you'll have that in this fan base.
It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. But it was fine. And some people had some very nice things to say. Some people just wanted to check in, make sure that I hadn't dropped off because of some, terrible tragedy or whatever.
Right.
Which obviously wasn't the case. And, but I'm not the show. It's the players on the field. At no point, I just think it's worth saying, I don't consider myself I was really lucky and privileged to be along for the ride with FC Cincinnati for almost 10 full years.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. It was awesome. It's an unforgettable chapter for me, but I wasn't part of the show. So when you talk about, I don't think people need to get too worked up about me as an individual. You know, there are certain things you can get worked up about. I get it. But, you know, I didn't die. I am still in the city.
Well, that's good.
I mean, not as often as you used to be, given the realities of baseball travel.
Jesus. No comment.
I will say this.
What were you going to say, Kevin?
I will say this. I totally understand a good journalist never wants to make.
You don't want to be part of the story.
Yeah, you don't want to be a part of the story. You definitely don't want the story to be about you.
Yeah.
That usually never goes well. But I will say, from a fan's perspective, one, like, thank you for building an FC Cincinnati beat at a paper of record in this city, especially when this was a team in the third division of U.S. soccer. And I genuinely believe that it is things like us having a dedicated beat writer from a paper that people have heard of outside of Cincinnati that helped drove the authenticity of this team, of the fan base, and maybe played a pinch of salt in the recipe that got this team into Major League Soccer. But I will also say that as a fan that has been in many arguments online, that it was a point of pride to have multiple beat writers from independent outlets at these games, at these practices, and it was really nice to have you there, because genuinely just being there made this team more valuable, made it matter more. So I don't think necessarily you are the story, but it's the work that you did in the position that you basically created and sustained that I think is genuinely, like, thank you, man. Like, what you did for this fan base in this city, like, that's cool. We'll see where we go with the Inquirer. It sounds like the folks over the sports desk have a plan, as they published in last Sunday's paper. But yeah, no, I wanted to make sure you knew that there was a genuine appreciation for what went into what you did here.
Wow.
What he said.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it's not why I do it. Wow, that's crazy.
But I mean, it is a point too that's like that I think needs to be said more, and that's that part of the deal with FC Cincinnati was legitimacy from day one. It was presented; it always presented itself as a major league entity. You know, there weren't a lot of teams. I don't think the Wilmington Hammerheads had a beat writer that was following that team around.
Actually, they still do. It's crazy. That guy has a lot of work to do.
He still shows up every day.
Just wondering when kickoff is. They never let him know why.
The Charleston Battery have a dude that shows up to the stadium that they tore down.
Right.
I mean, you've got to count it as a point of personal pride that you've been locked into several minor league soccer facilities over the course of your time. As
absolutely. Those stories are great.
Do you have it ranked in your mind as to what your favorite venues to be locked in were?
I mean, real quick, we can get through this real quick. I mean, the most inexplicable and annoying and stupid is obviously Charlotte FC and Bank of America Stadium. It's an NFL freaking venue. You know, it's not like they don't draw well. They draw like 40,000 a game or whatever the hell it is. And, you know, just the idea that pockets of MLS still aren't conditioned to normal game coverage is so absurd to me. It just and infuriating. You know, I won't miss getting locked in stadiums, guys. But obviously,
they don't do that in baseball. That's crazy. Well, I guess it's early. We'll see.
And getting out of Great American Ballpark at night is harder than I thought it would be. I've definitely done some wandering in the underbowels for sure.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if like the Pittsburgh Pirates just don't lock the doors at night. Like, that would...
I'll let you know. That one. The San Francisco Giants do lock the doors. No, obviously, like the funny, the great lock-in story. Like Charlotte was, like I said, that was just so stupid. I was so pissed. And anywhere you get kicked out early, like
Oh yeah.
Yankee Stadium. There's one guy at one club who I like, so I'm not going to throw that club under the bus, but they're in a media market where they really, really need to do better. I got so sick of getting kicked out of these stadiums. And, you know, the one place I rarely even got spoken to after I would go upstairs after a game. It's good old TQL Stadium.
Hey.
I could work there until 4 a.m., I think, if I really wanted to. And I think they would have welcomed it. Maybe. But yeah, getting locked in the place at
Harrisburg City Islanders.
City Islanders, Harrisburg. And since then, I've watched the documentary on Netflix about 3 Mile Island, and I didn't realize how close that was. I mean, that was a meltdown, by the way. I didn't realize the seriousness of that incident until I watched this documentary, which does use some disgruntled people as its main source of information in parts. So I need to do more research on that. But the fact that I was basically splashing around in that river, you know, holy crap. Why does it? And
that was a perfect journalist reaction to that, too. It's like, I'm already questioning the sources of the information that I'm reviewing right here. I may have some problems with the information being presenting. Further vetting is necessary.
I was going to say that, like, this is not, this has not been a hallmark of the Enquire's coverage, but some of the best news cycles around this team have centered around disgruntled individuals finding places to tell their story.
Yeah. You can go a couple different routes with that. I'm not going to touch it, but
it's there to be touched if someone wanted to.
Yeah.
So I guess the big question is that, like, when you look back on your time at FC Cincinnati, what is your favorite story that you covered on this beat over the last 10 years?
Oh God. Well, one thing that comes to mind is I definitely like being at those early All-Star games in 2016 and 2017, especially when FC Cincinnati was still gaining traction, and like being the person in the room who, like, the established MLS media members didn't know, but like if anyone was going to pop a question about Cincinnati, it was going to be me, or it was going to be no one. And like getting real answers about the club's progress and like just pushing that story down the field, that was really cool. And like I think that stuff always translated really well back to Cincinnati. People would get excited. And yeah, it was kind of like we see it now with like the arena talk and like Gary Bettman name checking Cincinnati. Sometimes it was just a name check, but that was really valuable. And people in those positions, including at MLS, don't do the name check without some kind of strategic play in mind. So, and someone has to be there to ask the question to get that. So that was cool. Like in terms of one-off stories, it was absurd and stupid, but I loved writing the story and talking to the players in Clearwater about who drove the vans from the team hotel to training every day.
Do you miss getting to do a sequel to that story this year? Because we heard from a guest on this podcast that there was maybe some drama with the vans that he would not go into. I mean, this season.
I mean, that would have been the ultimate follow-up. Just take like a fun-loving, good-natured story and then flip it on its ear. And just focus on whatever
rental vehicles gone amok in Florida.
Whatever possible drama could have come from that. Like that would have been an amazing follow-up.
In a scene that more resembled Twisted Metal than training camp.
Nice.
Oh, God forbid.
It's a Mad Max Fury Road situation.
It's a silly, fun-loving story that turns into a spinning web of insurance fraud and cover-ups and
attempting to blackmail young men into joining the Scientologists.
Underage academy prospects driving.
Yes.
With adults looking on. Yeah, like those two things come to mind. I don't want to like and burn 10 minutes trying to think up. I'm sure I'll think of something way cooler later on. There were
it's a classic postcast tradition coming up. There's something better to talk about as soon as the recording stops.
Yeah. Well, also an incredible tradition is me coming on and just saying 50,000 times, and that pause in my speech accounting for like 15-20 minutes all on its own. I know you guys are gonna miss that shit.
Honestly,
that's actually podcasting.
Yeah,
that's kind of a hallmark of the show.
All right. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'll probably think of something like a way better answer later. But who
in the Reds is most likely to give you? Who in the Reds is most likely to give you a bottle of water if you're coughing?
Ooh.
I don't know yet. I'm in all seriousness, I'm very much still getting acclimated there. I don't know. I've picked up some really cool baseball words and some really cool stories that people who I like, famous people in baseball who I didn't think would care, found really funny. But I don't know who that would be.
Have you accidentally used any like soccer terminology?
Yes. They're
called extra innings, not stoppage time.
Yeah, right. No,
the pitch count was really confusing, I'm sure.
In San Francisco, I asked Blake Dunn a question and I used a soccer phrase and he kind of went like, yeah. And he stared at me and he yeah. And then he picked up his answer and started going, I put forth an idea toward Nick Martinez, the starting pitcher, during, I kind of spoke about the momentum in a game that he started, momentum that was gathered by the San Francisco Giants, and just the idea of how momentum develops in soccer versus baseball. I think it's fundamentally different. And I think I asked him look, whoever's listening, if I have to be able to laugh at this stuff, and I'm getting better, but I think I asked, did you have a sense that San Francisco is pretty good this year? And I said, did you have a sense that San Francisco's bats were going to get hot eventually? And he basically said, well, as the starting pitcher trying to get them out, no, I didn't.
Damn.
That's not what you plan for. Whereas in soccer, you can anticipate moments where a team is going to build momentum, or an incident in the game where momentum could start to, form. And that was definitely a bad crossover moment. And, well, I hope that Reds fans and Bengals fans are as warm in receiving me as FC Cincinnati fans were. And, just a little patience for a little while longer, and we'll get the kinks worked out.
So I guess the question I want to know a little bit is that, so you've had all this time at FC Cincinnati and pivoting to the new gig like we're talking about right now. When did it hit you that you are now on the beat of the oldest professional franchise in baseball, and maybe next to the Yankees or some of these other big teams, one of the most historically significant beats in the sport of baseball? It's got to be kind of a cool thing when you realize, oh, wow, this transition is kind of is kind of neat.
It has been neat. And that's not to say that I feel like I need to say it hasn't been all, totally happy-go-lucky fun times. I think I was, when I was out in Goodyear by myself for 10, 11 days, I was just there with my thoughts and, whatever highs and lows I experienced that day, and watching FC Cincinnati season start. And, that was just hard. And it was kind of a solitary time. And, I just want people to know that, like, I can have fun with this new thing, but simultaneously also feel like a little psychic pain for the thing that isn't there anymore. So I don't know. I just wanted to say that, but I'm reminded of the Reds things that you're talking about every day. There have been a lot has happened in the young Red season, and throughout the course of any game, there's a great dude, a Philly guy actually, who works for the comms department. And he'll go on the press box intercom and just spout out random stats. And someone on any given day could accomplish something that hasn't been seen in Reds history since 1940 or 1900.
Right.
Or 1899. And
some guy's name like Knuckles O'Brady or something like that was the last guy that did it.
Yeah. Chuckles O'Houlihan.
Yeah.
And like, it's just like, holy crap. This is just, if, I understand how a wide variety of people feel about me being in this position. There's a lot of stuff that people feel about it, but like, if you're to be in this position, like, it's crazy. It's crazy. The Reds, you're, to borrow a line from one of my favorite HBO documentaries about sports, about the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry, you feel like you're a part of something that was there long before you arrived and will be there long after I'm gone. And I've actually felt the same way about FC Cincinnati, except for obviously it wasn't there for a while when I picked it up when it was born. But FC Cincinnati is going to carry on. And with the Reds, obviously, the history is, they do a really good job of keeping what's happening on the field that day in a historical perspective. So yeah, I sense that pretty much daily.
Have you gotten your persona online is going to be? Because the other thing about covering the Reds is that all of the beat writers that I grew up reading as a Reds fan, as a lifelong Reds fan, they all, as soon as the Bird app became a thing, they all developed their own sort of sense of how they were going to interact and pass the time over the course of a 162 game season. You had C. Trent had his own version. Yeah. John Fay was just the most sarcastic human being known to mankind. God rest his soul. Who is Pat Brennan going to be as the 162 game companion for us, the fans, as we follow this team?
I don't know. I haven't found my voice there yet. With FC Cincinnati, like, I was an authority. Again, now don't conflate that or confuse it with me thinking I'm part of the show, because again, I wasn't, but right. I knew that I knew my stuff, so I could speak with real authority and authority that I sensed people respected. I can't assume a lot of what I just described with my FC Cincinnati experience. I can't assume some of those same things after covering the Reds for 6 weeks. So not 6, it's more like 10 weeks now. Don't sell yourself short. You're in double digits. So yeah, I haven't found my voice yet, and I'm eager to see what that looks like. I can I can already tell, like, I'm seeing people are a little more short with me, a little more testy, and it's not a criticism. It's just an observation. And I think I feel the scar tissue of like 30 years of heartache and, close calls and failures. And there's like a fan base like dying to be reawakened right now. And they're a little ornery, I would be, they haven't won anything in so long. So, but the current team has so much promise. So like, yeah, it's rough out there. I'm still feeling out what the audience is, and then after I feel like I know who I'm speaking with and who like the mainstay people are that are going to be interacting with me and are going to join me on that side of the show that I am a part of, like then I'll start to maybe find my voice a little bit more. Right now, I'm just giving it to you straight. No humor. It's a little bit dry right now. It's a little bit dry. And I think also more people are watching. Different people who I should say different people who I don't know yet in the Reds organization. And I want to know what they're about before I start to, uncork my absurdity. Because
you don't want to get into a situation where Brandon Phillips charges into a meeting and wants to talk about your tweet game. You got to be careful. You're going to have to be on the road with these people for 81 road games a year, and you're going to be seeing the same people in the clubhouse, same people in the locker room. So it's always a risk firing one off into the ether about the lineup or what happened.
Yeah, dude, before. Absolutely. Well, I mean, Terry Francona is one of the most interesting interview subjects I've experienced. And I think I'm going to experience a lot more like him in the baseball realm. But it's so different than anything I've ever experienced. And, one of the interesting things about covering baseball is that as a member of the Baseball Writers Association of America, you have so much negotiated access. Mm-hmm. You speak to the manager before the game. You go in the clubhouse before the game. You speak to the manager after the game. You should go in the clubhouse after the game. There's a lot of time to interact, and that can go in a lot of different ways. And like over the course of a 162 game season, it probably ends up going in every direction imaginable. I can only imagine that because I haven't lived it all the way through so far, obviously. But, I really want to be diligent about feeling this stuff out and, giving myself and the players I'm talking to and Tito like a fair chance to get to know one another. Before I don't want to just go in and start mashing buttons and agitating people. That's not the way you want to start things out. I think criticism when you can back it up and all that crap is fair game. But, I want to know what I'm working with here. Yeah. I think that's the right way to go about it.
I think so too. The other question too is, so like you covered soccer and there's always a idea of like, there's no cheering in the press box.
Yes.
And when you are covering one sport, it's probably easy to detach yourself from being a fan or being interested. Were you a baseball fan and you had to shut that off while you were covering soccer?
Absolutely.
And how has that been detaching yourself from the sport now because you're covering the sport now?
Right. If I'm following your question the right way.
I probably didn't ask it well. Basically, I just want you to say that like
I didn't follow it.
It sucks that I can't root for the Phillies anymore.
Yes.
That's really
yes.
what he's fishing for.
Look, like more to the point, anyone concerned. This was not a scheduled change for me to be in this job. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say that, because we had I spoke about how the beats work and who staffs them. We had 3 excellent people in those gigs. And I tried to describe it like my aspiration for covering the Reds. This is important. My aspirations for covering the Reds and Bengals, I tried to describe it to Mo Egger this way on one of his afternoon shows this week. It's like, well, yeah, like I would want to cover the Reds and the Bengals, sure, but I'd also like to win the lottery tonight and have $1 million pop up in my bank account. And because it seemed because both of these things are unlikely, you obviously, God, I was on a roll there. Sorry. So both of those things, when they seem unlikely, you're not going to plan for them. So I guess, yeah, I mean, if you go on I'm just going to be who I am at the end of the day. And I decided not to purge my Instagram account of any recent posts, indicating which way I leaned in my baseball fandom, which is longstanding. I've loved being a fan of baseball my whole life, and one particular team, obviously. And I did and actually, because I felt so secure in our situation, the way we are set up at the Inquirer, I felt safe I pulled back from being a fan of all sports except the NBA, which I have, outside of maybe a little bit of overlap there.
There is no surer sign that we're getting an NBA expansion franchise now than this right here.
No, not like that. Not like that. Like, I just mean that in the sense of other than some minor overlap during draft time and talking to talent evaluators when I covered Xavier Hoops.
Right.
I obviously didn't write about Najee Marshall nearly enough in that regard. I've had no contact with the NBA, and obviously the conversation is a little different in Cincinnati now with the arena stuff, but you guys get where I'm going with this. It was an area where I felt comfortable to be a fan because there was no threat of any appearance of impropriety on my part or bias. And I grew back into my fandom of a particular baseball team because I felt so secure in what was happening around me at the Inquirer. And so I'm not going to delete any of that stuff. I hope people can just trust my professionalism, and I'm sure some people won't. I'll let someone in the door on my Instagram account and they'll say, "Oh my God, this guy was rooting for the." So, yeah, I did.
In that tone of voice too.
Yeah, and it happened, and I'm in a much different position in life than I was when I posted those things on Instagram. But we're all from somewhere. We all grow up with these allegiances, and ultimately, if I want to keep this job, you have to cut that stuff out pretty quickly, or you get rooted out and canned. So, if I don't do that, it's.
No, Pat, I was thinking, obviously you're still newish to the beat, so obviously feel it out. But I've a pitch for you.
Sure.
You gotta be the Euro snob who has been dropped into a baseball beat. So every game you have to talk about how quiet the crowd was, how not into it the crowd is. Because, a Tuesday in Pittsburgh is never going to be hell is real, right?
Right.
And
where's the pyro?
Right. You've got to talk about the scran. You got to talk about, what's the weird, 18-inch long hot dog covered in M&Ms.
That's a shtick that could work.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hashtag will be, if people even do those anymore. That could be a gateway to opening up to the Reds fan base on Twitter. I don't know.
Baseball scran. I'm into it.
Hashtag baseball scran. Yeah. That wasn't very hard, was it?
I don't know.
Just leave it.
The account's already been registered by somebody.
Right.
Yeah, probably.
Well, Pat, look, we know it's Earl Lawson. It's John Fay. It's Hal McCoy. It's Pat Brennan. You obviously are right there.
Yeah.
Pat, where can the people read your coverage?
Well, same place as before, generally just a different tab, Cincinnati.com, but instead of the FC Cincinnati tab, it's the Reds tab and the Bengals tab. But I also want to say that I highly doubt that I've covered my last FC Cincinnati game. There's some games coming up here this spring that I definitely want to cover. And yeah, I mean, look, like, it's not my first time covering the Reds or Bengals. Just, I want to close on this.
Right.
And actually, back when FC Cincinnati was not good, which it's been a while since that's been the case, right? The offseason.
But it was the case for a significant amount of FC Cincinnati's history.
So the off seasons were long. And, you know, I would get drafted in to help with Bengals. Sometimes during FC Cincinnati season, I would go do like a one-off Reds game because Trent was sick that night or whatever, you know. Yeah. Those are actually really valuable opportunities. I enjoyed doing that stuff in the off season. It was a really cool way to refresh myself, see and experience sport from a different POV. And then I would come back. I would find that I would come back to FC Cincinnati so much more energized. And, you know, now I think the inverse is true. There are going to be chances and opportunities for me to come over and do FC Cincinnati games, you know, kind of not on a one-off basis because I have more in mind than that. But, you know, it's like I'm still a part of Team Inquirer, and the Inquirer is still covering FC Cincinnati. And I think, Kevin, you mentioned like the plan that we put out. You know, they're two really solid dudes who are going to pick that up. And, you know, just because maybe what they cover right now isn't your cup of tea doesn't make them lesser or undeserving of the opportunity or anything like that. And I'm going to be part of, if they want my help getting acclimated, I'll be there to help them. You know, these are talented professionals. They don't need my help, but I will help them if they want my help. And I'm also going to be there to help the Inquirer cover this team. Just like I was when I was the FC Cincinnati writer, chipping in on Xavier, UC, whatever the hell it was. You know, we've got a lot of ground to cover. It's not easy to cover it all. We try really hard. And I know that for the last decade, I tried really hard on FC Cincinnati, did my best with that. And I'm proud of that work. But I don't think it's finished. I think I have a few more FC Cincinnati bylines coming in the future. And yeah, I'll be around. Ain't hard to find. Like Dion said.
I do have some good news for you though. While you were speaking just now, I looked at the schedule. Are you aware that the All-Star break for your new beat of choice perfectly overlaps with a Wednesday game here at TQL Stadium with your good friend of the podcast, Lionel Messi, visiting TQL Stadium Wednesday, July 16th,
you know,
in the middle of the All-Star game.
Dude, that's so deep. I mean, that's great. I'm glad FC Cincinnati. I'm glad at this point in the year that FC Cincinnati can market that game as a Messi game, because, you know, as soon as the schedule came out last year, because of Copa America, you just automatically knew you could just, you know, block out certain MLS teams who were going to play Miami and not get to face Messi. And FC Cincinnati was one of those. So, but now he tends to get a little bit dinged up here and there.
That's true.
So I'll believe he's playing in Cincinnati when he steps out on the field.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got my tickets listed for sale anyway. So
good for you.
Get that bag.
Should pay for your next 3 seasons worth of season tickets, I would hope.
Oh God. Well,
you guys didn't happen to talk about the Crew playing in Cleveland, did you, on this episode?
Not in this one, Pat. A lot has changed since.
I know. You guys have a whole other
Yes. we talked about it over there.
Why do I have to answer questions about my shift? You guys should be.
Well, have us on your Reds podcast then, and we'll be happy to talk about it.
And with that, Pat, thanks for so much for coming on here. All right, we are back. And again, a huge thank you to Pat for finally setting the record straight. He brought it up. I absolutely loved the moment on Twitter a couple of weeks ago when he said, "Yeah, I should probably clear all that up. Just give me a moment. I've got to get something." And just totally ghosted the fan base.
We should do that more often in life. Just like, hey, I'll explain that in a second. Log off.
You are owed an explanation, and then just walk away.
I agree with you on that. Somebody should address that, and I will do it shortly as soon as I finish cooking dinner.
Hey, what's that plane ticket?
Right. And in much the same way, Kevin, this third segment.
Yes.
We owe the people a third segment. We always do 3-segment shows.
Yes.
Fuck Columbus.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. I also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati and, like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it, if you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to the show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.